All right, what do we have here? This is the Minos Germanium Fuzz from KMA Machines. I love this company. making amazing things from over in Germany. And this is just a vicious fuzz. It has that heavy weight of the germanium thing. When you think of germanium, you think of heavy things, both in genre and in actual weight. And this lends a lot of weight to your sound. So the controls on this pedal are fairly unique. Let me take you through them. On the left-hand side here, we've got input. That basically is what it says. It's just an input control, and that sort of determines kind of your overall tone shape based on how hard you're hitting the internal components. If you know anything about vintage style fuzz pedals, they react very differently when they're hit with like a single coil versus a humbucker, which has a hotter output. So with this input control, you can really control the sort of the shape and the saturation of this fuzz. It's a different thing than like a fuzz control, which is basically the next control. This anger is basically like what would be a traditional fuzz, amount on a pedal. So you're dialing in kind of like the hairiness with this anger control. And then with the input, you're dialing in more of like the saturation. And I found as you turn the input up, the low end just like goes through the roof. And then to the right of that, we have our volume. This is like the output volume. And then we've got some switches on this thing. We have mode 1, 2, and 3 over here on the top right. And then over here, we've got a little cut switch, which is a bass cut. And if you've listened to the demo, you can understand why that's there. Although I found it's very subtle bass cut. It's like, is it on? Is it cut? I don't really know. I couldn't tell actually a huge difference. It's subtle, but it's there if you want to cut some low end, especially again if you're using like a guitar with humbuckers. So this mode switch over here, 1, 2, 3 Roman numerals. The mode 1 was like a lot less bass than the other modes and a lot more sort of harsh and jangly sounding. Let me just play through that. I'll just put the knobs kind of around noon here. So here is clean. And then here's mode 1 over here. So really jangly and harsh and like a ton of top end. I was reading the literature and they were like garage band type of sound. So that's definitely like what it is. Go to mode 2, and this is like a low mid pushed mode. Compare that to mode 1. So some of those low mids starting to come back. And then mode 3 is just like crazy amounts of low end and high end actually too. So I'll go through them 1, 2, 3. Here we go. 1. Here's 2. And 3. I kind of liked mode 3 the most just because it gave me the most weight and the most low end in the signal. If I was using a different guitar, I may like mode 2 more. But it's cool they give you that option. It's basically a variable bass cut, but it does do other things to the tone as well. And then let me just show you this input control. So I'm going to go to like bridge pickup here, and that's dry. But as I turn up this input control, listen to the low end come up as well. A bunch of low end and kind of saturation, and it changes just the character of the sound. So it's going to sustain longer as you turn up that input, but also it's going to sort of de-accentuate the top end, because that low end is just sort of absorbing all the sound and taking over at that point. So as you turn up the input control, the low end really kind of takes over the sound. And then this anger control, which is like the fuzz, let's just bring our input back a little. And I'll turn this up and down so you can kind of hear the differences here. So a lot of tone shaping sort of options that you can, I was able to get a lot of different tones just adjusting this input and anger control, leaving everything else the same, like same pickup, same, you know, setting here, mode setting, same bass cut setting, same volume setting. Just messing with these two, I was able to go from sort of like a subtle overdrive all the way to just a completely oversaturated, crazy fuzz. So that's really cool and very unique when it comes to fuzz pedals. My experience with fuzzes is you really have to match the guitar to the amp to the fuzz, obviously to the player too. I'm not, you know, a shredder by any stretch of the imagination. So a lot of times fuzz pedals don't feel great to me because I can't use them sort of in a normal everyday pop, sort of like get a rhythm sound on an album kind of territory. But right when I plugged this in, I was actually surprised at the low gain kind of sounds I could get out of it. What I really liked was going to the bridge pickup, and I like the weight that it adds to like the bridge pickup of a Telecaster versus something like, you know, a standard overdrive where you're not going to get a low end boost. But this is boosting actually low end, obviously, as well as like saturation and stuff. But what I liked doing was turning this input up a fair amount and then turning this anger control down, adjust the volume to taste, you know, go to this mode 3 here. And what that gives me I've heard like overdrives that sound like that. I mean, that's not super fuzzy. You would, if you heard that, you wouldn't think, oh, that's a fuzz pedal. Especially because it's very clear too. There's a lot of clarity. Another cool thing about sort of vintage style fuzzes is you can roll your volume back and they clean up really nicely. If you're going to do something like that, you can really get a more aggressive sound on the pedal and then use your volume. Let's say that's my, you know, biggest sound. Roll the volume back on that. Really nice sounding stuff. I love, like I said, I love this company. They make quality stuff. They have a great aesthetic too. They always have a story with their pedals. This is like this old god king who had like a terrible horned devil son. I don't know. They say in the literature that this is based off the classic Tone Bender Mark II, which is like a very classic fuzz from back in the day. I don't know that much about the Tone Bender, but I will say I really like this thing, and I don't like a lot of fuzzes. Sorry, but like if you give me a big muff and like have me just play, I don't really know what to play. That kind of sound doesn't immediately sort of like resonate with me, but this pedal did when I plugged it in. There have been a few fuzz pedals over the years that really resonate with me. The Doc Lloyd Face Ripper is another one. But this one I really liked, you know, just right when I plugged it in. And I think it's because I was able to get some of those lower gain, smoother type of sounds, and it wasn't so crazy and dirty and messy sounding like a lot of classic fuzz pedals are. So whatever they've done in this thing, it works for me. Sounds really good. Hey, let me know if you have any questions about this pedal down in the comments below. That's going to be it from me today, and we'll see you all next time.